You shush, I can talk if I want to.
It's true, because you're live now, and
Good.
you're breaking formula where it's silent at the beginning and then it pops in on you.
I can do anything I want.
That is true. We can change these often, and we do, and...
Look at that monarch butterfly over there in my little new area I've created around that mesquite tree. And look up, the hummingbirds hang out right there. I need to change their hummingbird water. And then I had an oriole, look, hummingbird right now. And then see that little orange tray over there? That's an oriole feeder. Because I had, I guess it was maybe like Thursday or Friday morning, I had hundreds of orioles going from tree to tree to tree right here. So there was a movement of orioles that went through our property.
That oriole feeder you put, I guess, orange slices?
Yeah, and then you can put like, apparently my mom knows a lot about birds, so she's been helping me. But she said that you can put like jelly in it or something like that. So I don't know. And then they like the sweet water, like the hummingbirds as well, which is, I caught one of them on the feeder of that. So, good morning. Welcome to the farm. Welcome to the garden with Aislynn.
There's so many adventures.
Seriously, y'all, there are so many adventures. Actually, buckle your seatbelts because we're going to go on a journey today. I have not really dug in deep and really given us a really long Sunday morning in a while. So I'm going to be here to show you a lot of what's going on. It's an important time of year because I can tell you right now, as a small farmer, as someone that's actively producing for not only my family's access, but access for other people, so some market gardening. I've got my head down, and I will have my head down pretty solidly through December, take maybe a small break in January, and then it'll be head down again until June. So this is what we're going to be doing, and it's going to be a lot of planting of seeds. And there's been a lot of questions to me recently about planting seeds.
It's that time of year.
What seeds I'm planting, how I'm doing it, how I'm moving things through. What am I planting in my greenhouse, and what am I direct sowing? Now, for those of you that have been watching me for about a year, you will begin to, you know that I've gone from an urban backyard garden to the transition to a farm, and now I'm into more of a market garden, larger scale. But I will work very diligently in helping you to see how you can turn the homestead farm thing that I've done into a small urban backyard situation. And I will also show you how we set up things in a backyard way here, because even on a farm closer to your home, you're going to keep your backyard gardens, and you're going to keep your backyard chickens.
And that's a great example. I can see a space evolving right here. That's that door on the left is a door into our front screened-in porch. We're going to be walking out those steps often, and you're going to create a little backyard garden situation right under that tree.
Yep, and that's where I sit and drink my coffee in the morning so I can watch the birds in this window over here. And I'll show you another spot we started drinking our coffee from as well. But let's talk about what I'm planting, because I got this specific question just the other day. And generally what I do, know this about me. Of course, you all know that I do consultations. I do edible homestead consultations, edible landscaping consultations. I also can do a pretty basic garden consultation. That's an initial startup of us working together. Then past that, I do private coaching sessions, online coaching sessions, all of that. But in general, if people ask me public questions, I will either answer them here in a face-to-face live situation, or I will shoot you back to a video that I've made that can help answer that question. Oftentimes that video will be located on YouTube. So this video will go up on YouTube next Sunday. It will be accessible through Facebook until that point, and then at that point it'll switch over to YouTube, and it'll be really easy to get to from there. So when you ask me questions, and if I don't immediately respond with an answer, I'll come back to you with a link to something that will help get the answer. Or if you're available to show up at any of the live things I'm doing, especially this one because it's every Sunday morning, show up, ask questions live, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. That being said, ask questions during this entire program today. All right, Joe, did you have a question? Perfect.
I'm ready to learn.
Onward and forward. Okay, so what you see me doing in here is that I am germinating seeds. So come over here, Joe. Focus here. Germinating seeds right here. What's that? Is that a moth that needs to get out? No. Okay. So every single day, I need to come out at least twice a day and mist this plot right here until I get it germinated. And then we'll go right here. Here is about a full week to a week and a half germination germination.
Let me just, I'll be the dummy. I am a dummy. let me just fulfill my role here. You planted these seeds
probably about a week ago. If I look back at my calendar, I have an actual, it's on my phone, so I can't pull it up for you guys right now, but I have been dating things, putting the date to harvest on them and the number I've planted approximately, although that's off often. But so this is about a week after germination. This is just a few days after germination. Okay, and then once they get to this point, when they're starting to get really leggy and really starting to get crowded in there, I pull them apart and I give them a one spot right here. Okay, now I want to show you the next phase, and then we're going to come back here because I want to talk about what I'm actually planting, because that's really the main question I'm getting right now is what are you planting right now? So the next final step before they go into the garden is that I have to harden them off. Okay, so this is a hardening off zone. It's going to get morning sun, and then it's going to back off a little bit on them so it's gentle as possible. And I'm also kind of letting them dry out some. But I'm going to hit them with water again because I've got to get them ready for what it might feel like when they're actually in the garden, when there's more pest issues, when there's wind, when there's harder sun, and when they're not getting as much water, okay? So that's what I'm doing out here in this area, and these things are so much easier to delineate now because I actually have more of a system in place now where I can start my babies in here, tend them. It's nice that they're up to waist height, so I'm not having to bend down because in the past you've always seen me, I have to get down on the ground. Well, over here, I don't have to get on the ground, and I assume that in the very near future we'll create some systems over here where that is helpful in that way as well.
So can you estimate how long ago you planted these?
That would have been in at the beginning of September, I believe, maybe even in August. I'd have to look. These would be the first plants, and they would have been several weeks ago.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, and in answer to when I will put them out here, I'm looking for strong, big plants that as I begin to get to know better, that have filled a root ball in this size thing, so that when I pull them out, they're not losing all their soil. So
Gotcha.
that when I plant them in the garden, they're a full little compartment with all the nutrients and things that they need ready to go out in the garden, okay? So let's come back over here so I can show you what I'm planting. So if you go through over here, what you see me planting is some tomatoes that I want to play with and tomatoes are an experiment at this time of year, not just an experiment. Tomatoes are built at this time of year for people that are going to tend tomatoes very carefully through the winter time, okay? Because that way, when the spring rolls around, and even some throughout the winter, you will still produce tomatoes, and you will have a really strong, longer season of tomato production rather than a short, fast season of tomato production. And I'm doing the same thing with peppers and eggplants. You'll see throughout this deal, I've got peppers and eggplants. So what that means for me is, yes, I'm going to be doing a lot more of them than you might be doing in your backyard, but if you're on a homestead situation, you can grow a lot more plants, and then you keep them in a very secluded area that you tend. That way, if there is a situation where there's a freeze, you can move them and get them into the best scenario of being able to make it. So if it's closing the greenhouse up and getting them all inside here and then shutting down the windows and putting a heater in here, we do that. Or if it's closing off our back porch, which I'll show you in a little while, the same type of situation, we do that. But in the meantime, I'm container gardening tomato, pepper, eggplant plants that I can work with here to keep alive to springtime, okay? And we'll see that. You'll see me going through the phases of growing those things up. Then what you'll see is as we come around through spring and into June and July, when you've had a really good cropping of tomatoes and then all of them have backed off, the ones that then can live through the winter time, which I'll show you through the summertime, which I'll show you when we get to that garden over there, will begin setting again in the fall. And so you'll have access to tomatoes in the fall, through the winter, and then in the spring, and then it just slows down in the very, very hottest part of the summer, okay? That's what we're working on with our tomato system and eggplant and pepper system production. In the midst of that, I'm also planting Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, kale. I'm learning that the kale is still a little bit weak, so it is actually getting knocked back by some of the little bugs that are eating things, you've got a lot of caterpillars this time of year because all of those monarch butterflies and all those beautiful moths and everything that are flying around through the summertime, they've laid all their eggs and now their eggs are becoming caterpillars. And so we're going through the fall caterpillar season. That's the reason why I always say, everybody, don't get in a hurry to plant your soft greens. The kales, the Swiss chards, the lettuces, you know, some of that stuff. Now, kale and Swiss chard, I am going ahead and getting that stuff started and seeing what I can get going because it's a little hardier. But the spinach and the lettuce and stuff like that, tender. I'm waiting a little bit longer because they're going to get massacred by the caterpillars if you just go ahead and start putting them out in places. So wait a little bit longer on that. We're going to talk some more about direct sowing in the gardens of what I actually am getting started in the gardens right now. Now that's basically what you're seeing here. You're also seeing me plant some flowers. So like here's a status plant. I'm also planting some herbs. So back here in the back, you can see that I've got different kinds of calendula, verbena flower, rosemary. I've got oregano. I've got different things like lavender, all of those types of things coming up. I don't cover those seeds with soil. I just sprinkle them on top of the little pot and then I mist them with my mister. It takes flowers and herbs a lot longer to germinate, a solid 10 days to germinate. So that means you've got to keep the temperature of the soil and the moisture of the soil consistent for 10 days straight to get the flowers and the herbs to germinate, right? But once you get them to germinate, they do a really good job.
I got a question.
So just keep at it.
As we go for a walk, are you putting thought into where you'll plant a variety of herbs that might be really useful to have close by to the kitchen?
Yes and no, not quite yet, but yes, as I begin to develop these spaces, you'll see that happening. First and foremost, it'll also depend on how much I have in the garden, because my first goal is to create a really good microclimate in my gardens that is going to be the most balanced for the least amount of me to get involved in handling insects that are a problem and handling weeds that are a problem. So I'm just constantly putting as much stuff out in those gardens and getting them full, and you're going to see that here in just a minute. Some of the other things I'm working on too is like the artichokes, because artichokes can take a really long time and they actually can live through our winters most of the time. So I'm going to put those in the garden, and then by the time we get around to next summer, I will hopefully be harvesting some artichokes. This is the first time I've done artichokes, so I have a lot to learn with that. Okay, Kaishin, come on, bub, let's go. Okay, one more thing I did want to show you, and that is me mentioning some hardening off, some larger plants, things that I'm not going to plant in the garden right now because I don't want them to freeze. Now, if this was the spring, if this was February and I was about to start going in the ground in the spring, these peppers, all of this stuff would be ready to go in the ground. But because it's the fall and these plants are looking this good, I now have a responsibility to protect them from the freeze. And I will say this, I'll probably be saying this every week. We expect to freeze this year. We expect to freeze like we did last year, okay? So that being the case, everything over here is my job of tending until I can get it to the spring and plant it in the ground. You can see I've got, this is a tropical, almost like a plumeria that I had out there last year. I got some milkweed over here. I've got some trees, some pecan trees. I've got peppers. I've got tomatoes. I've got moringa plants. I've got a, this is a pawpaw tree. I've got some other trees that are going to go over here as well. I'm not planting any trees in November. After last year's freeze, and I saw a lot of people lose their young trees in November, or lose their young trees that they had planted in November, I'm sticking with the end of February for beginning any kind of planting like trees, because that gives me almost an entire year, 9 months, to get them strong enough to handle a freeze after being in the ground, okay? All right, so let's keep going this way. Speaking of planting seeds, we planted the seed a couple weeks ago of this is where the chicken coop was going to go, and now it's here. Let's go visit because we have a new chicken friend if you haven't seen it yet. Hi friends, where are y'all? They hide under the coop. Are you going to come out?
See if we can tempt them.
They're very skittish. Their new home is very different than their old home. And they also have a male friend now. His name is Nimrod. Let's see if we can get him to come out.
Yeah, we got our first rooster, which is brand new for our chicken experience.
Certainly for this flock of hens. This flock of hens has never had a male chicken in their lives.
So I like this coop up off the ground so that they've got a safe, cool in the heat of the day little refuge.
And they've got this nice mesquite tree that creates all of this nice shade and has all this good buggy stuff going on down around it. And then if you followed and you knew where our compost bin was, you knew our compost bin was actually inside of our run. So this corner over here is beginning to get situated to be a composting system that will break down, that they will break down, but if I want to go in there and get access to it, I can. And then you can see over here even.
Nimrod the rooster is the white chicken. Look at his silky boots. It's our first silky, our first rooster.
Kai-Shen, come here.
And he, indeed, cock-a-doodle-doo is about, what, 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yep, exactly. I'm going to pick Kai-Shen up because Kai-Shen, that rooster might beat Kai-Shen in a fight. So over here, if you guys remember, we would put trimmings and things like that in here. So we've kind of started that in that corner over there. That gives another place for insects to hang out, for the chickens to get access to. It gives another place for the soil to hold moisture where they can dig around in the soil and get some good, what do you call them, insects out of the ground. It gives them a place to hide if there was ever an issue. And they do, as you've seen over the weeks of the in-town situation when there's an attack of some kind. And on a farm, you almost can always expect that. You're going to need to give them as many places to hide as they possibly can. So that's one of the situations as well over there.
We did a really good job placing, I think, the coop where we did, because this mesquite tree will give them, like you say, protection from overhead predators, hawks, and owls, and plenty of shade during the day, and a place for them to just play.
Yeah, and eventually they'll be up in that tree once they figure out what's going on, and there's going to be some more hens coming in the next few days. So once the more hens get placed in here, that will occur. We'll also go ahead and start putting in the mulch that we've talked about over all the years in here as well. We'll just dump it over the fence and then let them put it where they want to, make their beds. Now last week, you saw, as we were preparing for the tropical storm, Nicholas, right? You saw us preparing for that. We went ahead and weeded this down completely. This is an old hugelkultur bed. Weeded it to the ground. I actually pulled up all that material and put it back up on top of there. And then since there wasn't as much rain as we were even hoping for during Nicholas, I went ahead and watered it with a sprinkler for a full day the next day, so it was very saturated. And then we covered it with this, and I'm probably going to leave it like this for 2 weeks.
So what is the purpose of the yeah, you were getting there?
Yeah, so what happens is that when the moisture sets in, and all that green stuff that I put up on top of there has all had seeds in it. And of course, there's also all kinds of seeds and growth going on down inside there. And so what I'm trying to do is kill as many of the weed seeds and the running roots that are down inside of it as possible. Of course, that is going to break down the compost material, the hugelkultur tree limbs and all the stuff that are in there, but it'll give me an ability to get this bed back under control. So once I pull this off in a couple of weeks and it's gotten all that heat and moisture in it, I'll go ahead and take some more of my material, some of the nice topsoil that we have and some of that composted cow manure, and put it on top, and then it'll be ready to plant. So it's really not very far from being ready to plant, and it had been ignored for a solid year.
So given the idea that we're about to go see the front 2 major gardens, do you have any idea of what this would, a little bit of everything? A
little bit of everything.
Okay.
Some of the herbs you mentioned definitely would go into this space because it's easy for us to run out here and grab it. One of the things I've thought about is doing another hugelkultur bed right here really close. So the edge of the hugelkultur bed to the edge of the hugelkultur bed, I can put a cattle panel right here and run some gourds up it, something that will really draw in a lot of good pollinators, and it'll also give some aesthetics of a nice little walk through, which is really fun.
That'd be lovely.
Yep. I've been sprinkling wildflower seeds and just different random flower seeds along the fence lines because of the rain that we got and because I expect us to get some more rain as these next months. And yes, we'll knock it down to clean it up, but as long as we let things go to flower a little bit and then let them seed a little bit, we'll consistently just keep growing more and more. More seeds will start to be able to spread. So this is the back porch I mentioned to you earlier, and this gives us the ability, I can do some of my planting over here in the shade, and then I can just move things back and forth over there. And I've got a little walkway here that eventually we'll put in some the ability to do some rainwater catching, especially so that I can use rainwater catching for the seeds that I'm germinating here and over by the greenhouse. That the access to that water first for the baby plants is really, really, really important, because we are on a type of city water out here. It's not like Taft city water, but it is a co-op water system out here. So that's one thing that we're keeping in mind as well.
While we're just kind of giving a little bit of a grand tour, when you're sitting up here on the porch, I'm going to put some more, another station of chicken scratch here, so we can call the chickens over here and we can have backyard TV anytime we want to.
Yep, and you can see how the development of backyard gardens will happen the way that you saw them develop at our home in town. And we're going to put a fire pit out here. We've got our nice picnic table. We've got to create a lane through here, because that's where the double gate is, where we can still drive. Do you see that there's a gate for the pasture gate, and then on the other side over there is another out gate that's double wide, so we can pull machines, our mule, our tractor, through this area to help us, and then we need to leave them a lane to get through. But I can plant my gardens all around that, my hugelkultur gardens, all of that. We can create situations of sitting spaces and comfortable bird watching spaces in here. I'd like to put some fairy lights that go across that create like an entry arbor kind of way here.
Bringing the dog?
Kai-Shen! I just want to make sure he's okay. Yeah, come on, because he's going to try to keep getting to me. Hold on, I got it. Can you help me with this, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No. Got it? Okay. All right, so one of the things we're going to do and our room, a couple of the rooms. So one of the best things we can do on this side of the house is to plant some trees. And so some of the fast-growing trees that I could plant that will help quickly will be those moringa trees. Of course, I can't do that until the spring, like I said earlier. But my goal would be to put in some moringa plants right here that will start the process of shading, start growing fast and covering some area, while I also put in maybe a pecan tree and some other trees like that that will create a very nice shady space out here in the front of the house that will help to shade this side of the house as well.
And pecans.
And pecans. And you know, whether we get any pecans out of the deal or not, most importantly, we have a very nice shade. And all of you guys have heard me say many times,
a hardy, beautiful
pecan trees are really good for growing a garden underneath, especially in the hard side of a house where you need shade anyways, because then what you're doing is you're creating a situation there in the summertime. In the summertime you've got shade for your garden. In the wintertime you've got full sun. So that'll end up being a really, really good place to grow a lot of things out there. Kai-Shen, come on! So you're passing through the orchard again, you guys all know that. And then this is the vineyard that my dad uses to make the wine grapes. The wine that he makes uses Spanish Lenoir grapes. And then you saw, Kai-Shen, come here. He's interested in that beehive over there. Okay. So what you've seen me doing here is direct sowing, and you've seen me coming out here. I try to water this at least once a day, if not twice a day, but making sure that it stays as moist as I can, especially because I am planting carrots right now. Carrots have got a long germination period and they need a consistent moisture. Kai-Shen, come here. There's a beehive over there and I don't want him to get in it because he doesn't know anything about beehives yet and he might get confused. Okay, so that's what you see planted here, and mostly what you have here is carrots, sweet alyssum, and radish. Now on this row I did more of a mixture of a fall plant, what I call a fall plant, which is going to have dill, cilantro, carrots, any kind of wildflowers, maybe like bluebonnets. There was a few bluebonnets mixed in there. Some leek seeds have gone in there. Anything that could companion really well on just one row of covering, right? So it'll keep this area nice and covered. Oops.
Bee got him. No, he didn't.
Here's another area where you can see that while I still have growth, and keep in mind things like this time of year, I'm trying to hit and grow in places that, yes, they're clear and clean, but they also have some shade, and they're a little bit, they're keeping some of the moisture in the ground. So you can see that that's the reason why I've left a lot of this stuff, and I still can harvest okra, which actually we haven't really done a lot of okra harvesting this year. So most of the okra I have has just been a plant to help me and to grow more seeds. So as I get back into harvesting every day, I can just pop these little guys off. And one of the things that I'm doing as I'm doing them really small amounts is that we're just cutting them up fresh and we're putting them in our salads. Real thin. If you get them small like this, small like this, and small like this, then you can thinly slice them and just toss them on the top of your salad. And that's when they're actually the most tastiest, is when they're fresh. Okay? So that's a thing. And they're very full of zinc and very healthy for you. So don't give up on okra. Keep trying it in different ways. And then you can see here I also have this pretty celosia, which is kind of a summer flower, an amaranth variety. The leaves of that are edible. I also have the roselle that's doing really well right here. And the other day, this roselle was growing way over into the space over here. That's this plant right here. And it has a flower very similar. Here, can walk this way. Here's another one over here. See how beautiful the flowers are on this? And then these roselle pods are good for, they make different kinds of cosmetic coloring, but they also can make jellies and are really, really good in your smoothies. But all of that being said, the leaves of these are edible. The leaves of the okra plants are edible as well. So those are all summer leaves that you can use in a smoothie. And I will post a link to a smoothie or something like that because I've got access to a smoothie video I made. But I'm able to take the leaves, and that back one back there, I was literally just cleaning up a section. I needed to cut those plants back. So I can either throw them into my compost bin with my chickens, or I can just pull some of those leaves off and throw them into a really nice smoothie. They do taste really good. They don't have a super bitter. I can teach you some things about smoothies to keep a little bit of that bitter off if you want to try to use some of the hardy greens from the summer. Use a lot of citrus like orange juice. That helps out. And definitely put some honey in there because honey is just delicious, right? So that's the kind of stuff you're seeing over here. Let's go back that way. Because these are the sides I'm working on the most. And of course you can still see the flowers that are doing well in this area, that are drawing in my different butterflies and things like that. You can see that I've planted some more. Now, I will need to go back when the timing is right, one bite of the elephant at a time, and you'll see as I'm taking one bite of the elephant at a time, you saw a hole down there. You might wonder, well, what's that hole about? Ants. Trying to clear those ants out of there. I may or may not rebuild that section of that little piece of garden or not. I don't have to do everything the same because I'm out here tending this garden myself and taking it one bite of the elephant at a time. Now, one of the things being said with that is I'm going to go in here and start beginning to see that a lot of this is just a grass seed. So all I need to do is do a really quick popping out and continue to let the ones that I want to grow, like this one right here, up. And it'll start to take off, okay? So you can see, and then I also have some volunteer seeds of things coming up in here. So that is a coneflower or echinacea, and some of this stuff is just going to do so beautiful as the temperatures just begin to decrease and decrease and decrease more and more. See, these sections I haven't even worked on here, and truthfully, you kind of have a food forest going on here. I talk a lot about food foresting. Now, these are not trees, but look, this is like a tropical little, and things are growing here. Things that I could harvest, things that I could eat, greens that I could eat, okra that I could eat, flowers that I can put on my table, okay? So now here, this is the section I've begun working again. So you can see the new mulching I'm doing. You can see that I'm planting. You can see where, okay, as the seeds start to germinate, all the seeds start to germinate. So does the nut grass, right? Just pop it out if you care. I don't care too much because I like coverage. And my job is to plant more seeds of what I want to cover, not to stress out all the time about the seeds that are growing that I don't want. Okay? One bite of the elephant at a time. Now look how good this coverage is going to be.
What is growing there?
This is radishes, there's cilantro, there's dill, there's sweet alyssum, there's carrots, all kinds of stuff coming in over there. Same thing here, same thing here. This row over here, I started to clean it, but haven't replanted it because I was having an ant issue down here. One bite of the elephant at a time.
Well, don't pass these pumpkins up too
quickly.
quickly.
I have so many pumpkins, y'all. Listen, I'm about to be your pumpkin farmer because I grow pumpkins good. I grow them real good this year. Look, there's even more over here. Now this part of the garden is not being watered unless it rains. So see, there's some more pumpkin there. Black-eyed peas, sweet potatoes. Lots and lots of beautiful sweet potatoes. I had 2 rows. I think maybe 7 or 8 slips that I put in here. I'm going to have a ton of sweet potatoes for our fall dinners, November, December, you know, those special things. But in addition to that, if I need to clean, which we could actually mow over this right here, it's not a big deal. I just haven't talked to anybody that mows about this. Doesn't bother me if you mow over this.
The mowing
they
department?
wait for me to give permission to mow over things that look like growth, right? Thank you. But I could go through and just clean this out, take it in, wash it, and use it in my smoothie as well. It's another delicious, delicious green that can be used. You can also use it in your eggs in the morning. You can use it in a green stir fry if you're trying to use some green stir fries, that kind of stuff. So, okay, then in here you can see that I am still growing tromboncino squash, right? We looked at this last week.
That's a big one.
And I'm gonna remind you, look at this.
Wow.
See that?
Mm-hmm.
I am going to remind you right now that September 29th, Wednesday, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., I am putting on the Long Lunch Club, the first of Farm to Table Long Lunch Club. The focus is going to be tromboncino squash and basil. This is a 4-course lunch with me and my mom, and we're going to talk about how we prepared the tromboncino squash, how we use basil. We're going to talk about the different ways we're going to taste the things. And then in addition to that, I'll give you a tour of the garden and I'll talk to you about how I'm growing these prolific vegetables in the summertime, right? Because that's the thing. If we can make it through the hard parts of our seasons here in the South, we can grow 12 months out of the year. In fact, we have to teach ourselves to take breaks from things, which when we take breaks from things, they just start to look like this, which is actually beautiful as far as I'm concerned. And they start to grow ginormous fruits like that, which is fine because you just switch the way you use them. I'm no longer using that as a summer squash. I'm now starting to use it as a winter squash. Okay? All right. So let's keep going this way. Now, what you saw me do in the back with that hugelkultur bed, this will be the next on that list when I get ready to do that. And what will happen here is that I'll ask Joe to go in and weed whack it completely to the ground. We'll water it for a couple of days, or I'll do it when I know I'm about to get some rain. Cover it with that black material. After I pull it off of that bed, it'll probably be the perfect time to move it to this bed, and then get this bed ready to go, and it'll be ready to plant as well.
That's 2 new high square footage hugelkultur beds to play in.
Taishan!
He's behind us.
Okay. Walking through another section of vineyard and orchard. I like to call this my irrigated garden. It's a little bit more permanent than the other garden. And so you can see that it has really, really stayed alive. And it has a lot of production and a lot of flowers and a lot of available seeds.
It's a gorgeous little patch on this property, man. Look at what you've done.
And the thing about it is that this began planting exactly a year ago. Exactly 1 year ago, I put the original first seeds down on this property. Or maybe a little more than a year ago. Maybe a year and a couple weeks. And you can see as I go back in, like this is a new one. I've been cleaning this up, and one of the things I'm adding to it because we had to move, I got a lot of compostable paper and a lot of compostable cardboard from the boxes and things like that. I also found a ginormous bucket of cork wine bottle stoppers.
Where'd those come from?
So I'm just putting that material out here because it will break down and it will fill this hole. And what I did is I took my fun little tool that I use and I just go through here and I break all this stuff up, including even where you can see that I've got some Bermuda grass up in the garden. I don't want that in here, right? So I'm pulling that stuff out. I'm pulling these nut grasses out. I'm cleaning this section up over here. And then I'm mulching it. I'm laying down some cardboard, or I'm laying down some compostable paper. And you can see right here on the edge, some of it's sticking out right here. Throw out some of those corks so I don't have a collection of corks in my house anymore. Did I break this thing? Okay. And then I can go ahead and cover this whole area. And then later on, this will become a nice mulch composted area that I can then because that's all I've done. I haven't planted these like I've done in the front, because kind of what I'm doing in this garden is preparing it to put the plants in the greenhouse out here first. So that's broadcasting, that's direct sowing happening first out there. In here, first thing that's happening is planting the plants. And you do kind of have to delineate a little bit, because you can do kind of a sporadic planting, but you have to think about, well, I broadcast sowed here, right? And I planted a new plant here. You can't go into a row where you've broadcast planted until you get enough growth happening and you can decide what you want to do with it to go back in and plant plants. So this area, I'll broadcast after I plant the baby plants. That area, I'll plant the baby plants after my broadcasted seeds have germinated well, and I've been able to begin thinning them out and deciding where I want to put more larger plants out there. Okay? So you can walk this way. I wanted to show you a few things that I'm harvesting out here. See this? This is what we were eating the other night that I was calling, that it tasted like a banana pepper, but I have no idea what it is because I don't see a label on it. But they're very tasty little peppers. So these, I can let them grow a little bit bigger than this, or I can let them stay that size, like that. I've actually got quite a few more. There's some melons that are coming on. I've got some melons hanging on the fence line over there. Let's walk this way. Look at this nice milkweed for my monarchs. I've been harvesting Brussels sprouts. These were planted last August, and I am literally still eating them. I harvested and served Brussels sprouts to my family a couple days ago, and it was delicious. And they were not in bad, they did not taste bad. So these have lived through freeze, they've lived through an entire year, and they're still producing, right? That's the way, that's the permaculture way. It doesn't work all of the time with every plant. Like this one, you see? Not so much. But the others that have stayed successful, I've continued to let them keep growing. So we're looking for things to harvest now. Are we needing some more beans? I've still got some of my runner beans that are starting to harvest, okay? So as I begin to clean up this line right here, I clean up and look at which are the cucumbers that are good, meaning, follow me this way. Do you see that? That's a salt and pepper pickle, or salt and pepper pickle cucumber. And it's delicious, and it's September, and I didn't plant that. I planted that in February or March, and now it's got cucumbers again on it. Now this is the one I was supposed to throw to my chickens, but didn't make it there. So those are things I wanted to show you today. I also want to show you, come back this way. Same thing, bell peppers planted in the spring, and they're just producing tons and tons, and they're just going to keep setting more and more and more flowers as the fall temperatures drop. More fruit. And remember, while you could have pepper plants that are growing big like trees, like this one over here. But this is after just 1 year, and we'll see what happens with the freeze this season. Which, here's some more of those leeks that these leeks were planted this time of the year last year. Last night you used leeks in something. And we'll talk about that on the podcast in a week or so. But, and if you don't listen to the podcast, dinnertabletalks.com, we launch every Monday morning. Talk about the food we eat, talk about the things we're growing, talk about all the philosophies we have about life, which are a lot. But this is a poblano here, so I'm harvesting poblano. I've got serrano, I'm harvesting those. I've got some more Anaheims, harvesting those as well. Keeping an eye out on the pumpkins in here and seeing what will happen with the pumpkins. Now come this way, but be careful. I'm just getting this area cleaned up. I'm not seeding it yet, but I'm putting in plants, okay? Cleaning up here, so I've got some spearmint coming back in here. I've got different kinds of flowers that are gonna keep going. Speaking of weed eating, this area over here and that area over there, well, could use a good weed eating, Joe. Okay. You can see that I need to continue to clean this area up. You can see that I'm starting to set some more fruit, some more cucumber fruits over there. I'm gonna give this little salt and pepper. I like this. I bought a bunch more of these seeds to make sure I had plenty to plant more of that cucumber. It's the salt and pepper. I got it from Johnny's. Okay, coming this way. Don't go too far, because look who's there.
Oh, she never left.
She never left. I've left her there on purpose.
Why on purpose?
Because look at what she's got. She's got the hold on a corner, and she's helping me balance out the amount of insect predators, pests that I have in my garden. So my flowers are setting again over here. And all of this stuff is harvestable. I can harvest any of it that I want to. And this is all stuff that has had a little bit of water, yes, because of the fact that it's an irrigated garden.
Irrigated garden.
I need a stake for this one. Look how big this one grew. I mean, now it's just on its side. It's a poblano. So I'm going to clean that up and get it staked. You can see here, look at these butterflies. Flowers growing, beautiful flowers. The sunflowers are on purpose. Those are all bunching sunflower varieties. So I can harvest those for flowers inside my house, or I can just leave them out here to draw in a good butterfly sanctuary. Now, let's see. Let's walk this way. I wanted to show you watermelons. You can pretty much step, if you're in the row, you're good to, well, I say that, there's literally a watermelon on the ground right here. Look, you see this? So one of these broke off the other day. I'm gonna stand right here. One of those broke off the other day. I let it sit for a while, threw it in the refrigerator, cut it up. It was way under ripened. So what I've been doing with that is using it for my smoothies and also sprinkling it on the top of salads, like with my okra. Sprinkle it on the top of salads. There's nothing wrong with unripened watermelon. It's just not that super sweet candy flavor we're used to, but it's very flavorful and very tasty, so you still can use it. But really what you should do is wait until they come off the vine themselves. So all I have to do is kind of keep an eye out on these things so that when I go to lift it up, does it come separate from its bottom? Here's another one over here. Does it come off? Nope, not yet. And then I've got all this fence line right here. If you step over that melon, you can come this way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness, I can't go that way because I got a connected pumpkin. Come on. Go back over here. Hold on. Hold on. I got this. There we go. Back over here, friend. See there, look. More pumpkins. Tiny little pumpkins. And see? Be careful where you're stepping because I got like watermelons going back and forth. But look in here. Look in here, y'all. Look. Watermelon, 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 watermelon. And step over and then look. Basil. Oh my God. Aw, can you smell it? It smells so good. Isn't it delicious? Okay, that's really all I have for today. I really wanted to talk to you guys about the seeds that I've planted. Not only the seeds that I've planted for the beginning of this season as we start this season, but the seeds I've planted over the last year. You can see that if you plant the seeds, the plants will grow, life will come into the space, and you will create everything that you're looking for out here. I want to tell you about a couple of things. Reminder about September 29th. I've got a few tickets left. I'm going to close tickets on Friday this next week so that I can plan for exactly how many people we're going to be feeding. So if you don't get your tickets before Friday, it's going to be a closed deal. Okay. In addition to that, I also reminded you guys I have 2 initial consulting opportunities. One is specifically for edible landscaping, homesteading kind of stuff, also backyard gardening as well, but it's edible landscaping. And that's a consultation. And in addition to that, I have a gardening consultation, very specific on just one garden area you already know is developed and you want to get a consult on that. So I can do those initially to get you started, and then past that we can do private gardening sessions or online gardening sessions or any of that stuff that you want to do. In addition, I'm going to be doing a seed swap in early October so that we can have a fun little event out here swapping some seeds. And I'm going to be putting on the calendar a pretty general and generic garden workshop day. It'll be a short 1 hour garden tour, garden workshop, hands-on situation, and it will be priced by the car. So you can bring a carload of your friends and kids, come on out here, and we'll walk through the gardens and we'll talk about gardening and all of that kind of stuff. And who knows, we may have some homemade ice cream at the end of it, or some fun, fantastic watermelon or something like that, just to cool us off and have a chat in the pavilion when it's all said and done. Lots and lots and lots of things coming for the 21-22 gardening season here at Freedom Harvest Farms, and it's just Aislynn way. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the farmers market. If it's not out here, I'm going to get my online farm stand up and running again and create a situation that's going to be a little bit different than it did the last time, but I promise you I have a boatload of vegetables coming to your table. I love you guys. I hope you have the most wonderful Sunday. ever spend time in your garden and love your family. Bye.